basically put as an end to this session. And I would like to invite Dr. Parul Bhatt, Dr. Anil Kulshrestha, and Dr. Nehal Sadhu for the bout number 19. I would like to invite Dr. Dharmen Bhalodia, Dr. Himanshu Megnathi, and Dr. Hussein Bhatia. I would like to request Dr. Anil Kulshrestha to kindly introduce Dr. Rohan Parikh. Dr. Anil Bhai, your mic is mute. Kindly unmute mic and please introduce Dr. Rohan Parikh.
First and foremost, let me congratulate Dr. Kamal Sharma on organizing this program on such a beautiful level, and it's very interacting, a beautiful format, and I hope next year it will go beyond Ahmedabad. And I also thank Dr. Kamal Sharma for giving me this opportunity. Now it is my privilege to introduce Dr. Rohan Parikh. He has done DM Cardiology from Government Medical College and Super Specialty Hospital, Nagpur. And his achievements are silver medal in Maharashtra University of Health Science, September 2017, first prize in first STM National Hematology Quiz at state level, second prize in 35th APG Con 2012 in poster presentation. He has few publications, Lancet Student, Fingolimab, a novel drug for multiple sclerosis, the Lancet Student XDR, malaria, a new epidemic threat, uncommon cause of recurrent infection. And he has contributed one book chapter also, Deshpande MA with that in 2017, the Health Science Publisher. Current status, I think this is. You can start, Dr. Rohan Parikh.
Thank you, sir. My screen visible?
No, sir.
Sir, your screen is not seen.
Just a minute, sir. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Good afternoon, sir. Good afternoon, teachers, and thank you, Kamal sir, for giving me a chance to speak. I have been given a different difficult tasks, beta blockers in hypertension. I think here the point is not debating on the case, it is how the different drugs hold their profile in different profiles of hypertension. The case given is a 55-year-old male who has been said to be non-marfanoid, has echo finding of mitral valve prolapse, which is grade 1 mitral regurgitation, no pH, and his mean ABPM is 152/98. The rest of the data like diurnal variation, other hypertension mediated organs are not mentioned. So we assume the clinical diagnosis given is essential hypertension grade 2 with MVP grade 1 and no signs of hypertension mediated end organ damage. So as all we know, the blood pressure relationship with total mortality, there is a J-shaped curve with systolic blood pressure having the trough at approximately 130 millimeter of mercury. But if you consider severe mortality, higher the systolic blood pressure, higher the risk. The risk relationship with diastolic blood pressure is even steeper. It starts rising at 90 threshold, and it rises more steeply than systolic blood pressure, and more so in young patients who are more than 20% of total mortality is contributed due to isolated elevation of diastolic blood pressure. So now the novel beta blockers with first and second generation beta blockers, which were not cardioselective and then cardioselective like metoprolol. Now we have newer generation beta blocker. We have additional actions other than selective cardio beta 1, like alpha blocking with carvedilol and labetalol, and newer nebivolol, which has nitric oxide release, that is vasodilating action. The carvedilol has a shorter half-life. It has inconsistent absorption through GIT, but can be improved with dosing with the breakfast and dinner. Labetalol is very effective in hypertensive emergencies because of short half-life, and is safe drug now used in pregnancy since methyl dopa is not available. Nebivolol can be dosed more consistently. It has good absorption independent of food intake and has a longer half-life, which can be scheduled for once daily dosing. So comes the novel beta blocker, that is nebivolol, which is third generation highly selective beta 1 receptor antagonist. It has nitric oxide mediated vasodilatory effect. Due to its unique properties, nebivolol holds some central hemodynamic effects which are different from the older generation non-vasodilating beta blockers. Nebivolol has shown a comparable efficacy compared to ACE inhibitor, ARBs, and CCBs in lowering blood pressures in adults. The advantage of nebivolol when compared to older beta blocker is it can be safely used in asthmatics. It is because it is highly selective. It corrects the endothelial dysfunction by releasing nitric oxide. It is safe in diabetics as it preserves the insulin sensitivity. It does not interfere with sexual life. It has once daily dosing, no food drug interaction, no monitoring of creatinine. So it is very convenient, cheap, and does not require frequent lab monitoring when patient is on nebivolol. So the evidence with the first Greenwich trial, which established nebivolol as a monotherapy in presence of hypertension, and then it was compared with an older generation beta blockers. With this first generation beta blocker, atenolol and then metoprolol, it was when it was compared, nebivolol showed twice reduction in systolic blood pressure, diastolic blood pressure, and mean blood pressure at 1 month, and that continued for 3 months. There was one pharmacoeconomic therapy trial were done in UK, which established that newer nebivolol beta blocker is the most cost-effective beta blocker with highest tolerability, since it does not have any side effects, better long-term compliance, cheaper, and there are more persistence with therapy when newer beta blocker like nebivolol are given to the patients. Now it comes when nebivolol is being taken with head-to-head to CCBs or ACE inhibitor. Now this data have come recently in 2020 in Atherosclerosis Journal, in American Journal of Cardiovascular Drugs. The latest meta-analysis which has been published in July 2020, which encompasses all the randomized double-blind RCTs done with nebivolol compared to calcium channel blockers, diuretic, and ARBs and ACE inhibitor. There are 12,000 subjects with almost all the ethnicity covers, including 70% were black ethnic who are most resistant to hypertension drugs, 55 were male, and 10% were almost diabetic. In systolic blood pressure, nebivolol was superior to older generation beta blocker and diuretics, and equal in efficacy to ARBs and CCB. The most important point is in diastolic blood pressure, nebivolol was more efficient than beta blocker, ARBs, or CCBs. So when we know, everybody knows that when it is an isolated systolic hypertension, calcium channel blockers hold the first place. But when it is diastolic blood pressure, nebivolol is the most efficient drug compared to ARBs, ACE inhibitors, or CCBs. The guidelines for hypertension, we'll not go into details just to save time. AHA, EAC, and International Society, all quoted have been before the data of nebivolol meta-analysis have come. So probably we are awaiting the publication change with the inclusion of this. But all these guidelines recommend one thing in common. There are few compelling indications for beta blocker: angina, coronary artery disease, myocardial infarction, heart failure, arrhythmia, younger women, especially those planning pregnancy. Their beta blocker becomes the drug of choice. There are hypertensive emergencies and in urgencies where if by bedside you are not able to diagnose the exact cause for hypertensive urgency, it is better to go with labetalol beta blockers with no fear of any other contraindication like hypertensive urgencies with renal or without renal failure, encephalopathy, ACS, aortic dissection, eclampsia. Everywhere labetalol stands the drug of choice for hypertensive emergencies. So I would say that beta blocker are the oldest molecule as an antihypertensive studied. They were first in 1964 clinically available. Then calcium channel blockers were pharmacologically synthesized, and last was ACE inhibitor that came in 1981. But old stands gold. So beta blocker, though it has become old with newer generations coming now a bit faster, I would say with event availability of nebivolol and newer third generation beta blocker with nitric oxide releasing actions, the older generation beta blockers are now coming with the newer gadgets and would be very easily available, good good tolerability, and would be better tolerated with almost no lab report requiring for follow-up, and the cheapest option available. Thank you. That's all from me.
Thank you so much, sir. We will invite Dr. Nilesh Patel now. Anil Bhai, again kindly introduce Dr. Nilesh Patel. He is going to be our future president 2022, Dr. Anil Bhai. Kamal Bhai, next our CardioCon will be under with him only.
Thank
Anil Bhai was past vice president, I think, when we started CardioCon. It's a full circle.
Yes, 2017 we started.
No, I was vice president in APG, Association of Physicians of Gujarat.
Correct.
So it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Nilesh Patel, who is from Palanpur. He has done MD and DNB in cardiology. Currently is at Unique Heart and Vascular Super Specialty Hospital. He is managing director of it, and he is consultant cardiologist at Sal Hospital from 2018 to 2019. His research experience is thesis for MD Internal Medicine, clinical study of community pneumonia in Surendranagar district. Thesis for DNB was prevalence of OSA, coronary syndrome and its effect on hypertension and diabetes. CME, he's participated in critical care course at Pune, participated as delegate in critical care fellow course. And areas of interest are devices, PPI, AICD, CRTD, and congenital procedures. Over to you, Dr. Nilesh.
Sir, kindly unmute, Dr. Nilesh Bhai. Unmute your mic. Your microphone is unmute, sir. Mute. Make it unmute.
Am I audible?
Yes, yes, yes.
My screen is visible?
Yeah.
Please share your screen.
Kindly share your screen here. It is seen in different way.
Sir, choose your PowerPoint, sir. We can see your screen. Open your PowerPoint, sir.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now is it visible?
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
visible. Now, please go ahead.
Full screen, sir.
Full screen.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead, sir.
So good morning, good afternoon, everybody. I would like to thank first Dr. Kamal Sharma sir for giving this opportunity to speak on this big conference at the national as well as international level. Our case is a 55-year-old male with heart rate of 92 beats per minute with grade 1 asymptomatic mitral valve collapse without Marfan features and a mean blood pressure of 152/98 millimeter of mercury on ambulatory blood pressure monitoring. So what is the drug of choice? So my colleague Ravan Parikh has already told that he would go with beta blockers, and I would go with ACE inhibitors or ARBs. But if we go see the case, it is absolutely a case of hypertension. Grade 1 asymptomatic mitral collapse does not hold any clinical significance because many a times MEP grade 1 is difficult to pick up, or sometimes in echocardiography it is given it is subjective many times as a grade 1 MEP. So this case becomes definitely hypertension because of ambulatory blood pressure monitoring 152/98 millimeter of mercury. So what are the synonyms of MEP? Systolic leak murmur, Barlow syndrome below, and billowing mitral cup syndrome, floppy valve syndrome, and retrograde cup syndrome. So hypertension, when our case of hypertension comes, we have to first confirm it's and after the confirmation we have to see is a primary hypertension, secondary hypertension. Most of the time it is essential hypertension. Secondary hypertension is very rare, 5 to 10% of total cases. We have to see the renal causes as well as congenital causes like compression of aorta, renal artery stenosis, fibromyopathy, and some of these renin secreting tumors, and all this we have to see. Pathophysiology, already we know sympathetic nervous system activities and activities of the vascular endothelium, renal system, and endocrine system. This pathway very well known where ACE inhibitors act and ARBs act to stop the conversion of angiotensin 1 to angiotensin 2. And this new guidelines came when systolic blood, just like lipids, the targets have been reducing. Similarly, in the blood pressure also the targets they have reduced. Now the normal is considered to be systolic less than 120 and diastolic less than 80. So elevated blood pressure systolic 120 to 129 and stage 1 is 130 to 139. Systolic diastolic 80 to 89 and stage 2 is more than 140 millimeter of mercury and diastolic more than 90. And hypertensive crisis is higher than 180. Systolic diastolic is more than 120. So what are the therapeutic uses of ACE inhibitors? There are a lot of trials on ACE inhibitors, enalapril, captopril, fosinopril, as well as ramipril. Therapeutic uses are antihypertensives. They prevent and reverse the LVH, protection against sudden cardiac death and secondary myocardial infarction after acute MI. They improve the survival and hemodynamics in patients with congestive heart failure. and also protect against the progression of diabetic and non-diabetic nephropathy. So ACE inhibitors may attenuate the short-term response to heart failure, prevents the increase in preload afterload, dampens symptomatic response, and reduces the vasoconstrictions. ACE inhibitors may attenuate the long-term response to heart failure. These are the evidence trials for ACE inhibitors. The ASK Ramipil was studied with against metoprolol and amlodipine. The ACE inhibitors were more effective than beta blockers in reducing GFR. The FACET trial ACE inhibitor fosinopril was studied, which showed a reduce in the vascular events, all vascular events, cardiovascular as well as cerebrovascular as well as other peripheral vascular. So life losartan versus atenolol. Losartan is not an ACE inhibitor, but the same group, ARB, having same slightly different mechanism of action, significantly reduces the cardiovascular morbidity and death as compared to atenolol. HOPE trial, they studied the ACE inhibitor Ramipil, they significantly reduced the death by 10%, MI by 10%, stroke by 4%, in high-risk patients who are not known to have even low EF and heart failure patients. So even patients who don't have heart failure, who don't have reduced EF, they can be given ACE inhibitors, they reduce the vascular event. The perindopril was studied in PROGRESS trial. In the UKPDS 39, captopril versus atenolol. So captopril reduced the vascular events, and the all heart trial lisinopril versus amlodipine versus doxorubicin was studied. All trials showed that ACE inhibitors are superior to other class of drugs. So hypertension guidelines in nutshell: blood pressure goal less than 130 to 80 millimeter of mercury, less strict control, comorbidities or limited life expectancy. The recommendation is by ACC, AHA, JNC 9 previously opted. This targets for diabetic and hypertensive CKD patients, and less than 140 by 90 for all other patients. Now JNC 8 is the opinion of writers and not the official endorsed guideline of NIH. So recent SPRINT trial showed that we all know that the SPRINT trial, which came with the lower hypertension targets, and the lower is the best. So they came with a target of less than 120 by 80 in patients with 50 to 80 years of age, and more than 75-year patient, the targets were slightly liberal. So lifestyle modification must always be emphasized, with or without the drugs. Exercise, DASH diet, potassium supplement, and reduce the salt intake, limit alcohol, and quit the smoking. These are the lifestyle modifications. So stage 1, as we all discussed, the stage lifestyle modifications, and stage 1 lifestyle modification plus AC or ARB can be added, or CCB. Beta blockers, no one stands at the first line of drug for hypertension. So stage 2 hypertension medication similar to stage 1, but we have to add combination therapy. We have to check the compliance, switch from one class to other class, and suspect resistant hypertension and treat the cause. We can add the mineralocorticoid receptor antagonist like spironolactone, aplerenone, and this hydrolyzing clonidine, labetalol, carvedilol. So this is a nice guidelines. What they said that younger the patient, less than 55 years, we have to add. Step 1 is A, and more than 55 years of age, we have to add C or D. So A is ACE inhibitor, C is calcium channel blockers, and D is the thiazide group of diuretics. So if not controlled with 2 class of drug, we have to go with the 3 class of drug. And the 4th stage is we have to add the diuretics or alpha blocker and beta blocker. SPRINT trial, as we already discussed, targeting systolic blood pressure less than 120 millimeter of mercury as compared to 140 previous guideline in the patients with high risk for cardiovascular events but not diabetic. Resultant reduced fatal and non-fatal major cardiovascular events, reduce the MACE rates, reduce the MI, stroke, and the death from any cause. So some adverse effects were shown with lower targets, and this is I will come back to this case again. This is having grade 1 MVP. So MVP case, as we all know, if asymptomatic, does not require any management.
Sir, your time is over.
This is the last slide. If patient has atrial fibrillation, may require beta blockers or other CCBs and anticoagulants. Thank you.
Very nice. Now we would like to invite Dr. Abhishek Tripathi, the last speaker of this session. Dr. Abhishek Tripathi. Again, I am giving responsibility to Dr. Anil Kulshrestha. Sir, we are utilizing your service, Anil bhai.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. So it's a pleasure in introducing Dr. Abhishek Tripathi. He has done his MBBS from GSBM Medical College, Kanpur, MD in General Medicine in 2007 from BJ Medical College, Ahmedabad. He has done DNB in Cardiology from Batra Hospital, presently associated at Consultant Intervention Cardiologist at Ahmedabad, and he worked as a junior consultant cardiology in Batra Hospital and Medical at Delhi for 1 year. Assistant Professor of Cardiology at Nizam Institute of Medical Science, Hyderabad from April 1012 to May 2014. He has publications also, catheter-directed thrombolysis in deep venous thrombosis and a rare case of post-operative myocardial infarction. And his research is thesis, bivalvulotin as a sole antithrombotic agent during PCI in non-ST elevation acute coronary syndrome, a pilot study. Over to Dr. Abhishek Tripathi. Please start deliberations.
Good afternoon, sir. And good afternoon. Just a second. Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you, Kamal bhai, for giving this opportunity to have an opportunity to interact with such an esteemed panel. So I'll just cut short the talk. My patient in question is a 55-year-old male. No cardiovascular risk factor mentioned. Grade 1 MVP as already being mentioned, sometimes overdiagnosed. And even if grade 1 MVP can be safely overlooked. Mean blood pressure on ABPM is 150/98 and heart rate is 92. So I think everything has been given with some purpose. And we know Kamal bhai doesn't mention things just like that. He must have had some purpose there. That heart rate is 92 and blood pressure is, when on ABPM, is 150/98. So my first question, whether this patient needs to be started with medicine because he's a person who doesn't have any cardiovascular risk factor, and whether he is in a category because the guidelines mentioned if the patient is in stage 1 hypertension and does not have any cardiovascular risk factor, we can give lifestyle modification for 3 months and then we can plan to start some medication if the blood pressure is not controlled. Now, hypertension stage for office blood pressure and for clinic blood pressure more than 140/90 is hypertension, 140 to 160 and 90/99 diastolic is stage 1. More than 160 and 100 is stage 2. Here on ABPM, more than 130/80 average is hypertension. This patient has 150/98. So certainly blood pressure is on the higher side and this patient merits to start medical therapy on the first go. Definitely the other things like further evaluation of hypertension and hypertension mediated organ damage, evaluation of other cardiovascular risk factor, lifestyle modification, all these things definitely come in the picture. Now coming to the main question, how to select drug in this patient? Does this patient have any compelling indication like coronary artery disease, LV dysfunction, or any other thing like that? No. Any hypertensive emergency or urgency? No. Any specific contraindication by clinical history mentioned in this patient? No. Any race, ethnicity, bias regarding selection of drug? No. So the purpose here in this patient remains optimum blood pressure control with a target of less than 130/80, avoiding the J curve, and without rising resting heart rate because his resting heart rate is already 92. So what options we have? Like earlier we had an option of A, B, C, D. After ISH 2020 guidelines, the B has been taken down. The beta blocker, it doesn't fit in the first line medical therapy. However, we know in India, we are using it quite oftenly with good result. But as far as the guidelines are concerned, A, C, D, this comes as a first line therapy. ACE inhibitor, ARB, calcium channel blocker, and diuretics. So what to choose in this particular patient? Now there comes guidelines, what they mention, if age is less than 55, ACE inhibitor or ARB becomes the first line therapy. Add-on therapy will be calcium channel blocker unless there is no specific contraindication or compelling indication. If age is 55 and above, CCB, calcium channel blocker, comes as a first-line medical therapy with ACE inhibitor, ARB, or diuretic as an add-on therapy if there's no compelling indication or specific contraindication. This patient is age 55, so it goes more in the direction of calcium channel blocker. As already been mentioned, younger patient 55, less than 55, A, and older 55 and above, C and D, add-on therapy, just like I mentioned. Now between A and C, because this patient falls on the hinge, he is 55-year-old, what to choose in this patient? The age is 55, favors calcium channel blocker, non-availability of renal function parameter, no compelling indication to use ACE inhibitor ARB in this patient, and availability of safe and effective alternative in terms of calcium channel blocker. What calcium channel blockers? Dihydropyridine. We have first generation nifedipine, nicardipine. We knew these had rapid onset action. They had side effects of tachycardia, frequent dosing, and decreased inotropic and chronotropic effects. Second generation benadryl with lesser side effects. Third generation amlodipine, what we use commonly, it has lesser tachycardia, slow onset, slow offset, prolonged action, less frequent dosing, and positive pleiotropic effect. And fourth generation serendipine blocks both L and N type. So definitely the tachycardia part, the sympathetic nervous system stimulation decreases significantly further. So in this patient, I'll cut short. My choice would be serendipine or amlodipine, preferably in combination with beta blocker in this patient. Thank you. I've saved time for everyone.
Thank you so much, sir. If there is any question, we'll take only one question because we all speakers have spoken. No further discussion is necessary.
That's true, but in this patient, I think because of the tachycardia, we need beta blocker.
That's why I mentioned. I would provide.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you. Yeah.
There is a consensus.
But cilindipine, I think still I will prefer amlodipine combination.
Certainly. Serendipity.
What I personally feel is cilindipine is a very poor has very poor anti-hypertensive effect if we compare with amlodipine.
Yes, that's true.
Okay, then we will go with another bout. Thank you so much to all speakers and chairpersons and moderators.
Thank you.